Well, hello everybody, Nick McGinnis here, and today we're on the farm, early June, and we're going to have a look at the cattle. They're out on pasture since May 28th, a little later than we like to start, but drought last year, and we're just trying to let the grass grow a little bit longer before we start grazing it, kind of in anticipation of another drought. They seem to come historically in waves over 3 or 4 years, and we've had 2 years in a row that were really quite dry, and we had no snowpack really to speak of this year, so not a whole lot of runoff. So we began the year managing for a drought, and one of the things you can do to manage for a drought in terms of grasslands and managing your pastures is at the beginning of the season let the grass get ahead. So we kept the cows off pasture, and we let the grass put on some length. And so let's have a look at this, what type of grass we're looking at for our first pass through. So this is the first pass through one of our fields. This is a really nice field. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, before we bought the property, a dairy farmer who's farming the field over there had this under lease, and he had grown a rotation of corn and alfalfa. So we let him farm that, kind of a gentleman's agreement, for 2 years, and then we had it seeded into a forage mix. So we mixed in some grasses, some fescues, alfalfa, and clover. And as you can see here, we have clover, alfalfa, some tall fescue, some other grasses. I'm not 100% sure what these are. Some of them are already putting seed heads on. And this is our first pass. So I know a lot of people like to graze before the seed heads start to form. What we're trying to do on this, fairly new pasture is allow some mature stockpile. Even if they don't eat it, we're trying to get a little bit of brown matter accumulating on top of the soil. There were some places here last year in between patches of grass where you could see bare soil, so we're trying to eliminate that. And one of the other things on this field that we've done as a management technique is we bale grazed out here several times throughout the winter. They were in here in December, rolled out about 15 round bales, brought them back in mid to late January, I guess it was, for another 3 weeks, fed them a bale a day. And then we moved them out here for 3 weeks in April. And one of the nice things about this field is we have access to a spring, which is running year round. It was even running during minus 27 degrees Celsius, so a really nice water access point. They don't have access to it right now, though. We're hauling in water just because we don't want them walking back and forth to the spring right now. We're just trying to minimize their area of impact. And yeah, so you can see quite a bit of grass down. It's up to the bellies on most of these cattle. And these are a red poll Hereford mix. A lot of these are bred heifers due to calve in the next month or so. And we've had a couple calves already. This one out of a red poll heifer, purebred red poll, and they were bred to a black Angus last year. So what we're trying to do here is, our first pass is a little later than last year. We're trying to accumulate a little bit more forage before we graze it. And we're moving them quickly through this pasture. We don't want to graze any more than the top third of the plants. That seems to be the kind of the benchmark that a lot of grazers are recommending for regenerative agriculture. And we're moving them twice a day, looking at some of the paddocks that we just grazed through. It looks probably closer to, they're only grazing probably the top quarter of the forage, which is fine. And we're going to quickly go over the 16 acres in probably 10 days and move them on to the next field. Now our grazing strategy is going to have to adjust a little bit in the next week or so, as we're going to be custom grazing 30 cow-calf pairs. So we're going to be giving them access to a lot larger paddocks every day, continuing to move them quickly throughout the farm, and hopefully continue to get the rain. We've had quite a bit of good fortune in the rain department over the last 2 weeks. 2 or 3 nights ago we had about 70 mils of rain, and the week before that we had 45 mils of rain. So things are starting to grow nicely, but like I said, we had no snowpack over the winter. The month of April, where we expect to get 120 mils of rain, we had 26. And the month of May, up until May 28th, we were about 25 mils of rain. So, and the expected was 120. So quite a dry start to the spring. We're finishing off on a strong note, but still going to continue to manage for this drought. And here's our low-line Angus bull. This is the type of physique we're looking for in our cattle. We're doing grass-fed, grass-finished beef that we're direct marketing to consumers. So we want animals that do really well on just forage. We don't want to feed them grain. And this is the type of animal, from what I've researched and watching people like Greg Judy, smaller frame cattle are going to be the ones that finish much nicer on just grass. And having butchered between 10 and 12 animals a year for 3 years now, I can say in my experience, the smaller breeds, kind of the more heritage breeds, do much better on just grass. And some of the continental breeds that are used in conventional beef farming, I've noticed that they can kind of struggle to finish just on grass. So you really have to be careful. Genetics are key in this regenerative grazing business. But over time, you can find out what works for yourself as you experiment with things. So that's it for today's video. Nice look at the cows. They're on pasture. Hope you learned something. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content.